Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to Witch is the Moon. I am your Friday hostess, Natalie, and we are back in our usual spot. For those of you that have been watching the channel for a while, this is the view you used to have, somewhat. I apologize that this video is going to be a little bit rushed, but this is the only chance I'm getting. I was hoping to have time last night to record this, and I didn't get it. So I just want to let you know from the outset that if it seems kind of rushed and disjointed, I apologize for that. But I'm going to do the best that I can, and I hope that you will gain something of knowledge or use in your practice out of this video. This week's topic is mantras, and I want to look at mantras from two different perspectives. First, I'm going to give you guys the basic Webster's Dictionary definition of a mantra. A mantra is a word, sound, or phrase that is repeated, which aids in concentration or meditation. That is the definition from Webster. It also lists it as a Vedic hymn or as a statement or slogan that is repeated frequently. And I'm going to take the first and second, because I'm not familiar with Vedic hymns, but I'm going to take the first and second part of that definition and discuss each one separately, because I think that this plays a big role in the spiritual practice of a lot of pagans or non-Abrahamic religions. And you see this used actually in a lot of Abrahamic religions. Like in Catholicism, you would have the Rosary, which is a statement, a prayer that is built on statements that repeat. So it would technically be considered kind of a mantra. They have several prayers like that. But in any case, taking the first part, mantras, as a word or sound that is repeated, which aids in meditation and concentration. The big one that I use is the Om meditation. I use the Om because the frequency on which Om is carried, which is roughly 500 hertz if I recollect correctly, has been found scientifically to really tap into a portion of the brain that locks into the third eye. Basically, it's very good for opening the third eye. So in our pagan path, or in the spiritual religious practices of pagans, a lot of us incorporate aspects of other religions that resonate with us. The Om comes from the Hindu faith primarily. I think Buddhists may also use it, but I know for a fact it's used in the Hindu faith. And I have found it to be a very good way for me to open my third eye, especially before I do any kind of Reiki work. If I'm going to be doing a Reiki healing, whether it's physical, not hands-on because you don't touch your clients in Reiki, but hand over the patient directly, or a distance Reiki healing of some sort, I will conduct an Om meditation for 20 to 30 minutes to really open myself to that energy channel, and then I will concentrate that energy and send it forth. So I use that in terms of a mantra. Other forms of mantras that I use when I am in meditation or prayer, I use a lot of these. Now, these Dharma cards were given to me by a friend. She sent them in some love mail a couple of years ago, actually. And the cool thing about this is that on the back sides of these cards are these lovely pictures. I'm just going to go through a few of these. I'm not going to show the whole deck. But they have these lovely pictures that you can set up to focus on for your meditation. On the back side of each card is a statement or a learning, a mantra of sorts for of the Buddhist faith. So this is like 3, and it talks about truth, choice. Card number 1 is mind, and it has these little phrases on there that you can focus on and repeat throughout your meditation, which I will sometimes use these. Choice is the one that I adhere to quite a bit. One, I like the colorful photo on the side, but also what it says, when you are insulted, you cry out. When you are exploited, you react, and you become just like them. Decide to let go of anger, choose to understand, and let compassion fill your heart. There is nowhere in this world where hate drives out hate. The resolution always comes through love. This is the way of things. And I actually started just kind of repeating this. I took this as my mantra, so to speak, in terms of I have a really, really bad temper. I'm Irish, and I'm Scottish, and Dutch, and Cherokee, and I have a nasty, nasty, nasty little temper. So I had really taken on that phrase and repeated it and did several daily meditations just on that particular mantra, repeating it over and over and over again to myself. And in fact, I even made a copy of the card and took it with me wherever I went, because it was a way to remind myself of that mantra, of those phrases, to repeat it to myself so that I could incorporate that into my life and learn to let go of the anger, because it was physically making me ill. I was having problems with my stomach, problems with my heart. And so that would be another example of a mantra. Now that goes more into the second definition, which is a statement or slogan that is repeated. And I think we see that use of this term most frequently. We see people say, oh, this is going to be my mantra. And it's some like little meme. Memes have become the mantras of modern day. And some of them are very good and some of them are kind of ridiculous. And most of them have horrible grammatical or misspelling errors, which drives me nuts. But some of them come to making a very strong point very quickly in very few words, and it's something that will stick with you that you can remember, and I think that's why we like them. And I think that particularly in paganism, where we don't have a holy book to guide us, we take mantras as a way that we identify and incorporate universal law into our daily practice. And so we will say these things to ourselves, or we'll post these things so that others see them, so that they can agree with us or disagree, but we remind ourselves of those phrases. So in terms of mantras as a sound or word that is repeated over and over, I think we see that a lot in terms of meditative prayer, prayer beads. That's the other thing. Mantras are used anytime you have prayer beads. So like I was saying, the rosary, this is a set of prayer beads I made for myself recently. They're not like the pretty fancy ones you get from Starry-Eyed Supplies, Joy Morris, but I made these for myself. They're not really for anybody else, so it didn't matter to me. I wanted to make sure that I remembered to incorporate the elements in my prayer, and this is actually for the Morrigan. So I have a prayer for each color bead, a phrase or an aspect that I am praying for that I will focus on based on the color of the bead. So that would be considered a type of mantric prayer. So I think we see that frequently, and we don't realize that that's a form of mantra. Again, I think going back to a statement or a phrase that is repeated, we see that more and we take that more. And I think for us, it simply defines those beliefs that fall under universal law. So we draw from a lot of different traditions when we pull in our mantras and we come up with our things. The rule of three, for those that are Wiccan, the rule of three, that would be a mantra. That statement that we have, abide the wicked law you must, in perfect love and perfect trust, that is a mantra. It's a statement that's repeated, that you see frequently, that defines the moral code of a specific group, specifically Wiccans, obviously. So I think that we use mantras as a way of defining our beliefs. And here's the thing, and the reason I bring that up is because I have a cousin who is very staunch Christian, raised, well, in their earlier years, they really didn't go to church because my uncle and my aunt had a disagreement as to where they should go to church, and so they just decided not to go at all. And then following that, at some point, they became very active again in the Church of Christ, which is the church I was raised in. And this cousin once said to me, how can you define your morality? How do you define your morality? You don't have any authority that states that, because he was looking at the Bible as his authority. And I had to point out to him that even for early Christians, the Bible didn't exist. So how did they define their morality? They were by mouth passing on the teachings of Christ, okay? They were hearing it from somebody else, they were passing it on, they were passing it on, and they were passing it on. The Bible itself was not codified, it was not written down until the Council of Nicaea, which I think was in 348. So roughly 375 years after the death of Christ. So, I told him, you can't rely on the Bible as your sole authority because it's been influenced by man. If you've ever played the rumor game, you whisper something to one person, and by the time you get to 25 people, It's totally different. So you cannot convince me that after 350 to 375 years, things were not changed, influenced by the political environment of the day and the power and desires of the men that were writing it down, frankly. And I say men because women weren't involved in that process. They were excluded exclusively. So, I define my moral code by what my conscience tells me is right and what is wrong. And does that open the door for some danger? Sure, because what I see is what I see as justice, somebody else might view as retribution. But and there's a difference between the two. But I don't think that that necessarily makes me a bad, immoral, or amoral person. I have a moral code. My moral code is to do the best I can with what I've been given, to remember always that I am a creature, as is everything else on this planet, from rocks, trees, and human beings, and that we are all interconnected. And I think that my mantras relate to that. So I think mantras are a way that pagans define their spiritual practices in terms of statements or slogans that are repeated frequently. And you see a lot of the same ones going amongst us, which tells me that there's common threads in our beliefs, obviously. That's what makes us all pagan. It's just that it's not tied to a specific authoritative book or group or anything like that. That is a cult, folks. So in any case, that is my take on mantras. As I see them, they are ways that we imbue our concentration, but they're also ways in which we define our spirituality or our spiritual views, our moral code, and so on and so forth. I hope that you guys gain something out of this. I would love to hear how you incorporate mantras into your practice, or your definitions, or how you see this differently or the same. It would be great to get feedback. I appreciate it. I hope you all have a wonderful day. Blessed be.